Welcome to the Totally Awesome Fishing Show. Now, if there's one thing that all fishermen are always surely moaning about, yeah, that's right, it's the weather. Well, go on then, what's the second thing? That's right, bait, bait, bait. Have I got some bait? Is it the right bait? Is it fresh enough? There's one bait that all sea fishermen can rarely do without, especially boat fishing, and that's the mackerel. And of course, all the chefy types out there and the people like eating seafood love eating the mackerel. You cannot get better than a freshly cooked mackerel. It is the pinnacle. So, how do you catch a mackerel? Well, it's easy. You just jig up and down with a set of feathers. Ah yeah, but there's a few little tricks that make life not only easier for you, but they might even catch you a few more fish. Let's check it out with a couple of guys I know that go fishing quite a bit. Okay, we're doing this from an anchor boat. Mackerel fishing is generally, as a standard practice, from a drifting boat. They're going to try and find things like birds, you know, bird activity on the top. Could be guillemots and razorbills, which are birds that are black, and you know, get an idea on them, and you can learn where they are. They eat a lot of sand eels. The sand eels are eaten by the mackerel, and so if you find, this is in British waters, razorbills and guillemots, you should find some mackerel underneath them. Generally, they would be feeding early in the morning. You might come out with your boat and just see them sitting on the surface, a big patch of them. Don't worry. There's still a chance there could be some mackerel under them. They just can't dive down deep enough, you know, to catch the bait fish. The mackerel can. That's one way of doing his drifting. We're actually out here anchoring. We've got some bottom rods down, and we're going to do this little film for you just while we're here anchoring. So what you want to do, you have various sets of feathers. We've talked about those different types of feathers and the reason we use them earlier on indoors. I've just got these. These were tied up by a commercial, well, he was a full-time commercial fisherman, and he did commercial mackerel fishing with these feathers. Wait for this, 28 I think it was on a string at a time, but from a hurdy-gurdy machine which wound them up with either a real hand reel like this or electronically. So when you're going to drop them over, always watch everybody else on the boat. There is more accidents happening with mackerel feathers on boats than any other type of hook. That's fact. For this particular little session, I'm going to be using, I'm not going to be using anything because I had a bite on the other rod. Might be weed. A regular fixed spool and an up-tider. Now the tide out here, I'm off the Isle of Wight, is barreling through. But the bonus of what I have got is down here is a chum sack, because really we're trying to get the best of everything. Some decent bottom fishing, the chance of a big thresher shark, and we've done it before so we know we can do it, and some bait for mackerel, bait for using pike fishing, tope fishing, anything these mackerel go for. Make sure you keep everything nice and tight. You could cast them out, but please, it's really dangerous on a charter boat full of anglers. Ask the skipper first. Most mackerel in the sun, just drop the feathers down. As you can see, the weight is on the bottom. 5, 6, what have I got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 feathers there, and just lower it into the water. The current's going to work here in my favour, hopefully, and you let it go down in segments. You don't want to be firing it down really fast. So you let it go down, and then just stop it. Oh, oh my God! How's that? I'm going to wind this one up because he might fall off. That's barely behind the boat prop, and he's in the chum bag we showed you. There you go. Now, I can't do any more than that, can I? That was to camera, barely moved it. A lot of people do those huge sweeping movements. Now, Frank Vinicum, who tied these feathers, the commercial guy, said, you don't ever see bait fish zooming up and down in 6-foot darts, do you? You see them going like this, small bait fish, and that's what they used to feed in on. I found that a really good tip for catching mackerel. So although everybody on the boat is sweeping up and sweeping down, he said you just want to work it really slowly, and that's what you end up with. Okay, so we try that again, see if we don't get interrupted by the mackerel again. Swing it out, lower it down in the tide, and I just feed the line out off the fixed spool. I just let it go down, stop it. If you can try and think of trying to search the depths, about 6 feet intervals, drop it down, stop it, just jig it gently like this, just work those feathers gently. Not great big sweeps up and down, because you know you're not going to get those finicky feeders, and they're not all stupid, the mackerel. There we go, I've got fish on, look at the rod top. There's the judder of the mackerel. And you've got a typical fight, you can see the rod top juddering. Now, what I do, my tip, some people just wheel that straight up. I wind it up slowly. Don't leave it down there. You will get the most horrendous tangle of 3 or 4 mackerel all swimming around, and your days of feathering will be over, or that day will be. Just wind them in, nice smooth motion. If they fall off, do not worry. Now, here's really the main tip. Charter boat, privates, whatever, shore fishing. Grab the lead, grab the lead. Let me show you why. Don't just reach for these feathers to grab the mackerel like that. They're all kicking and struggling, and below are 1, 2 other feathers here that are, well, very likely to snag you in the hand. So the proper way to do it is grab the lead, lay them so they're hanging horizontally like this, just like washing line really, okay? And then as you can lower them over your fish box like this, keeping everything nice and tight, you can either take them off by hand, or you can generally turn the hook upside down depending on the size of the barb, and you should be able to flick them off like that. See, that way you don't get mackerel slime and scales all over your lovely shiny rod hanger. Just stop, drop it down. I just let 6 feet, stop. Little jigs, search the area, give them time to find it. Another 6 feet, stop. And this applies anchoring or drifting. You're searching out those different water layers. And of course, where we got the chum bag over, hopefully, I'll give it a shake, it should attract the mackerel again and actually hold them with us. If you do fish from a drifting boat, where we are at the moment, we're near a wreck, we could lose some gear. When you get the lead hit the bottom, just wind it off quickly, because it doesn't take much to snag either the lead and or the 5 or 6 hooks you've got. So you've really, with a set of feathers, got 6 chances of losing all your gear. So if you hit the bottom, just come off it about 5 or 6 turns, and then you can work it back up slowly. Just a couple of little jigs like this, just work those feathers, then just wind level, stop, work the feathers. Again, searching those depths. Now then, with a bunch of people on a charter boat and a good skipper, way easier. The skipper's going to tell you what depth to drop them at, but also if the fishing is a little bit hard and the mackerel are a bit scarce on the ground, watch what depths. Ask the other guy. There might be one guy in the corner of the boat who seems to be catching all the mackerel. Check what feathers he's using. You want maybe the same colour, you might want the same size weight. Try and conform to what he's doing. There's a reason they're taking his feathers. You need to know it. Ask, ask, ask. Even if I'm on a charter boat, how deep were they? How deep were they? Shallow, mid-water at the bottom. Then you can fire down quickly if you have to, if they're down deep. If they're shallow, make sure you bring your lead up into that sort of strike or feeding zone. Right, here's the Graeme Pullen Totally Awesome tip. When I am fishing at a tide, I like to use a long lead like that, because if I want to put it out and leave the rod in the holder, this is still whipping around in the current. This is really strong tides, admittedly. Or even if you're on a, let's say, a fast drift and your lines are way back, this will move as you jig it up and down. It's not a ball weight, it's not a sort of bomb-shaped weight that goes straight down and does nothing if you jig it. These will move if you jig it, but here's the tip. I just use this inside edge of the knife just to scrape the lead. You can actually use the tip and resharpen. I'm going to use this just to show you. Look what you can do, just scraping an old lead. I've done this years and years, 30, 40 years ago, we all used to do it on the day, and that makes it silver, flashy in the water. There is one I've done earlier, as you can see. Just scratch that dirt off, and that will last you all day. Might take another day to sharpen the knife. Best if you've got a flat knife, this is curved, use that inside edge which doesn't get used much for bait, and just, there you go, look at that. Nice. There's the side that's not done, there's the side that's done. We got a cloudy day, think of that on a sunny day underwater. This is not going to flash, that is going to catch the light, flash, and draw them up to the mackerel feathers. Now, out on a boat, if you are drifting and you're in deep water, very deep water, and you've got to get down, use a bigger lead, and if the skipper or the other people start catching deep, you can fire that lead, totally what I said don't do, fire the lead down fast, and it will find a big school of mackerel, because one will get foul hooked it will stop the lead going through, and the others look around, see this mackerel going like this, and they go, what a bang, bang. They think all their birthdays have come at once. So there is a chance, if you're in very deep water, fire that lead down and see if you can get into the school, because sometimes mackerel are hard to catch, and we all know there's less of them. They've been commercial to almost oblivion. You've got to catch what you can, and don't forget, guys, just use what you can for bait, what you want, eat what you want. Let's not be greedy. And if you're lucky, you can just grasp the shank of the hook quite firmly and shake those mackerel off. Just with a little flick of your hand, you should be able to, if you don't have big barbs on the hook, just flick them straight into the box. They do say if you're going to use a mackerel for live bait, just touch it with a wet towel or wet hands. Best not to handle it at all. I've never had a problem with that, but they do say that if you're going to use it for live bait. In the case of eating them, or you want them for using for sea bait, just regular cut baits, not a problem. Either take them off by hand, but of course your hand will be covered in the scales, tiny little scales, which will then be transferred to your rod butt, and your rod will be covered in it. So there you go. There's a few tips for you on trying to catch a mackerel. Hopefully that'll save you a lot of energy and catch you a few fish for bait or the hook.